Through you, Madam Chair, before Jeffrey starts his deputation, I just want to say a few words in terms of introductory comments. The proposal incorporates a 4 to 3 lane reduction in travel lanes and provides one-way cycle tracks while minimizing impact to trees and utilities. During the assessment, 6 alternatives for Bloor Street were developed and assessed. 5 of those alternatives considered maintaining the existing 4-lane cross-section with various placement of the cycling infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jeffrey?
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of General Committee. Today's presentation on the Bloor Street Integrated Road Project. The Bloor Street study area is from Central Parkway East in the west to Etobicoke Creek in the east at the Mississauga-Toronto boundary. The study area is approximately 4.6 kilometers in length. Bloor Street is classified as a major collector road with a posted speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour. 2 region roads intersect Bloor Street at both Cawthra Road and Dixie Road. This slide highlights alternative 6 cross-section on the top versus the existing cross-section on the bottom. Alternative 6 cross-section includes 2 travel lanes on Bloor Street, 1 lane in each direction, as well as a 2-way left turn lane in the middle of the road to help facilitate left turns. Cycle tracks would be placed adjacent to the curb lane on both sides of the road. This slide illustrates how residents make 2-stage left turns while exiting their driveway. In terms of next steps, staff are seeking council approval. If granted, we will document the study findings.
Councillor Kovac?
The public consultation that was done in relation to this file, you described in your presentation as robust.
As part of the planning process, this project is classified as a Schedule A+ municipal class environmental assessment study. And with the more recent provincial changes in terms of policy, these type of projects are actually exempt from public consultation. So I would say that for this project, we've definitely gone above and beyond a typical project in terms of consultation and engagement.
Then March 9th of 2022, Alternative 5, could we put that up by any chance? For all different kinds of people were saying, okay, this ticks the most number of boxes. You've got the 4 lanes kept intact. They're narrowed to provide some traffic calming. We know that by narrowing a lane, it can prevent joyriding and reduce speeds. You have some greenery, you've got the pedestrian pathways on both sides of the street, and then cycling separated on both sides of the street. So for a good period, this was the favored option, and the city, your department, was pushing council to make a decision, and it was this one right over here. Is that fair to say?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I believe at the time that we introduced alternative number 5, there's definitely merit in alternative number 5.
Councillor DeMerla.
If I can just drill down a bit. So, you know, I have your email here, and you're saying that, if I understand you correctly, right now, Bloor Street is at 0.74 capacity, yes?
Through you, Madam Chair, what I would say is that there's some congestion on Bloor Street during the peak
in peak time, sorry. Yes.
I'm uncomfortable going to an exact number. I would say it's more of a moderate congestion under existing conditions.
Okay, so I have your email here which says 0.74 in peak time. And I need those numbers because moderate means different things to different people, right? What is moderate congestion? And then you have acceptable travel times. Like it's hard to understand what that means. So what I'm trying to understand is that we are at 0.74. At 90%, you're bumper to bumper. So what I'm trying to understand is by going from 4 to 2 lanes, because the middle lane you can't travel, you can only make turns. It's going to lead to some diversion onto other streets, but would it get to 90 then? And would we be bumper to bumper on Bloor?
If we were to implement alternative number 6, Bloor Street becomes a lot less attractive. But to answer your question specifically, I would anticipate that during the peak time periods, the Bloor Street will be full.
So when you say full, me as a layperson reads it
Like
as
busy,
bumper to
yeah,
bumper,
yeah,
right? At point 9, we are bumper to bumper. So that's all I wanted to understand. So that's where we're heading, just so we know the decisions we're making. My other question is, there's a number of streets like Bloor Street. One that comes to mind is Carthra. It has the same situation where you have homes fronting on to Carthra, 4 lanes. So are we now thinking, so does that mean that a similar treatment would be anticipated for streets like Carthra, which was given for Bloor? And part of that, the reason I'm asking is, my understanding is that if you're diverting traffic from Bloor to Dundas, they're going to go on Carthra. So I'm just kind of trying to understand that what happens to very similar tax-paying residents on Carthra who are now suddenly seeing more traffic.
Your question around Carthra is timely because we will, inherit that road from the region of Peel, and we will be able to make different decisions that have been made in the past around transportation capacity. And I am one of those people that travel in this corridor daily. I travel from downtown to the Mississauga border, and so I travel Bloor Street frequently. I think it is ripe for this alternative 6. Based on my transportation experience. There are significant alternates for that east-west trip. Yes, there will be peaks and valleys through that perspective, so at times there will be some congestion.
The latest proposal, number 6, reduces the road traffic from 2 lanes in each direction, which it has been forever, to just 1 regular lane in each direction. It will paralyze the traffic. Traffic will increase on any adjoining streets as people try to take shortcuts. And it already is bad on some of these streets with the existing travel movement.
Proposal 6 places the cycle path next to the curb and level with the sidewalk. All the driveways on Bloor Street in Applewood are graded from the sidewalk downhill. This would mean that the cycle path would have a sharp incline to each driveway and then an incline on the other side.
I think the concerns I heard were about the elevation changes of the cycle track adjacent to the curb, coming down to the residential driveway location. So I think the detailed design phase of the project will address those specific points.
Well, I guess doesn't it stand to logic if you have a car right next to a cyclist versus something that's separated, you'd have some safety factor, right?
Traffic congestion. Currently, 4 lanes of traffic can barely accommodate the traffic at certain times of day. Reducing the lanes to 2 will result in major traffic jams and interruptions for residents. People still need to get out of their driveways and go to where they're going.
Very interesting, because you live in the middle section of
Correct.
the Bloor. Now, the way I understood it was reducing from 4 to 2 lanes was actually being done to make life easier for people who live there. But you're saying no.
I don't see how.
Okay.
The comment about an ambulance parking on Bloor Street, yes, that will probably happen, and then vehicles would be moving around that through the center turn lane.
The reality is that Bloor Street is, say, 97% residential, and it ends at Central Parkway, which leads to more residential. For simple speed bumps on local streets, they send surveys to residents. But for a massive $20 million proposal, they bulldoze us. Staff made no effort to survey us. Corporate report and staff omit the fact that Dundas Street will soon be reduced to 4 lanes from the current 6, and that the subsequent diversion of those frustrated drivers to Bloor Street will bring additional traffic onto the street, just when staff proposed to cut off 2 lanes, causing total chaos as a result. They are the planners, aren't they? They're well aware of the future projects. Yet it's totally ignored in this report. My final point. There are 5 new developments which will bring thousands of new potential vehicles to Bloor Street. And the developments are not only on Bloor, but that's what will be most impacted. There is no mention of this in the report.
And yet we have professional staff here who do these studies. So I'm just asking you what your opinion is, because I would suggest that it's just your opinion. So do you think that a lane reduction would reduce traffic?
Yes.
Thank you.
But if I can answer your other question, the omissions in this report are glaring.
for you to say that this report...
Staff made no effort to survey us.
But for you to say that it is not a reflection of the community is just not, it's just not acceptable. None of that. You would just like to see Bloor Street paved over. Is that clear?
I would take the position that any alternative is better than option 6. Any alternative is better than option 6.
Alternative 6 all of a sudden came up in November of 22. On page 11 is the two-stage exit of a driveway out of the driveway. Now, it's interesting that that picture shows that people are exiting their driveway going forward, but most of the people park their cars facing their house. So now they have to back out, right? This two-stage thing, I'm sorry to say, I can't see how it's safe, right? There was a mention that there was, I believe Bloor Street was a capacity of 70.74 and then bumper to bumper at 90. Well, the buses are going to slow everything down anyway, so there's going to be a conga line behind them of cars.
And this is to Commissioner. Commissioner, we have 2 departments under you that are sort of working at cross purposes. So we have this one team that wants to do road diets, but then there's another department under you that is saying that for every high-rise that goes up, we have to have minimum 0.8 parking. We're going to build 120,000 units over the next 10 years, most of them high-rises. 0.8 of that is 96,000 more cars. So we as a city need to somehow address this cognitive dissonance.
And it's in terms of people's choice of travel. So, that could be a philosophical conversation in terms of a resident who owns a car but wishes to commute in a different way. Now, as we look to intensify, as we look to, meet new provincial housing targets through our housing action plan, we know there needs to be a significant investment in other forms of transportation other than the single vehicle.
Are they linked? 100%. It's not a philosophical issue, it's a practical issue, and there's 96,000 more cars. I don't think they can be viewed in isolation, and I believe they're being somewhat viewed in isolation right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demerla. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, I really appreciate, Councillor Demerla, what you're saying, because everything is linked.
Trying to, even getting back to Councillor Demerla's question about what is the long-term road infrastructure plan for the city, given all the latest information we know. So that is formulating now. And
sure, so also on page 7, it says, by implementing a 4-lane to 3-lane conversion on Bloor, the majority of the longer distance trips will divert to Burnhamthorpe Road and Rathburn Road, and to a lesser extent Dundas Street, but it's not taking into account future dieting on those streets. See, that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, so the broad answer to your question is yes, we have assessed at a macro level the corridor trips, through the screen lines that we talked about along those other corridors, and there is capacity in the system to accommodate the diversion, including the other transportation objectives we're looking to achieve through the Dundas BRT as example.
I guess whatever I say next is not really going to be a question, so maybe I'll hold it. Thank you.
I will be addressing the Bloor Street Integrated Project. Most of the central Bloor Street and area residents have been made to feel misled regarding this project. For the 4th meeting, we were initially told for November 29th the meeting would be on for the Bloor Street area residents. After this 4th meeting, several requests were made for the residents to meet and address the community concerns regarding the meeting. However, the response received from councillor and city staff was that a meeting, and I quote, is not warranted.
Can you answer, is there a speeding problem on Bloor Street?
Yes, there are residents who have expressed speeding on Bloor Street, and we requested from Peel Police to come and have it monitored. That happened on several occasions to address the situation.
So you would agree that there is a speeding problem on Bloor Street?
I don't know if it's a problem, but it does exist as it would in other areas. However, there is a school there. So I know that at the recent Traffic Safety Council meeting, which I attended, there is a request to be a community-designated school zone area, which would allow for an ASC camera to be installed there. And by this being done, this will be a very effective way of addressing this issue of speed on Bloor Street, as is remaining a 4-lane.
So speeding is a challenge. And I just wanted to get on the record that you do agree that speeding is a problem on Bloor Street.
Councillor Demerla?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Athena, here is one interesting point, and it's something that I want to ask staff, which is, when we hold public meetings, and I know that we hold public meetings to get community feedback. You want to get the input, but it's not a poll or a vote.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Demerla. So I think it's a nuanced approach wherein, the feedback is captured from the public meeting. I think we would look to capture all the comments we receive and look to decipher, what are the broad, overall objectives that people are trying to discuss. So I think it's a nuanced approach where we look to, capture all the comments that were received, but also then work as staff to summarize those comments and then meet with the ward councillor to go through those comments to say, okay, this is what we've heard, this is what we're hearing from the community. So I think it's a nuanced approach.
My question to staff is, so we have, I think, 5,400 cars on Bloor right now?
Yeah, I think it's just over 4,000 or 4,400.
So it just boggles my mind how we can accommodate these additional cars, reduce lanes, and have acceptable traffic, however that's defined, unless it's bumper to bumper. So I'll just leave it at that. It's just hard for lay people like me to figure out. I know you guys do this modeling, but anyway.
Okay, to Councillor Fonseca.
And I do believe through Alternative 6, be
Councillor
considered
Fonseca,
a people-friendly street. But just to your point about the development applications,
please.
Staff have attended all of the meetings east of Bloor Street.
No, let me finish, please. I'm going to move the 10.1 up when these presentations are finished. I won't accept any more debates or explanations. I want questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And now I'm moving to questions.
After this fourth meeting, several requests were made for the residents to meet and address the community concerns regarding the meeting. However, the response received from councillor and city staff was that a meeting, and I quote, is not warranted.
So, to your point, Athena, I'm always open and willing to meet with the community, and in this case, Bloor Integrated Project has actually not even been approved. We are not at the detailed design phase because we haven't even come up with and approved a design for the roadway, and once we get to that stage, if we get to that stage, I'm of course willing to meet with residents in the community about the detailed design phase.
So anybody who wants to speak to 10.1? Okay, first we have Councillor Kovac.
What I was trying to get to earlier is that there were other alternative options that at certain point during that long phase were supported more so by staff than what we're now seeing. Last year, March, April, May, what I was referencing earlier, we had really strong buy-in by Transportation Works and by the City of Mississauga for and on Alternative 5. Is that 53% of the people do support Bloor Street Integrated Project, of all the people who wrote in. So now I don't know what the answer is. Of the 53% who support Bloor Street Integrated Project, what percentage prefers Alternative 6, what percentage prefers Alternative 5 or something else. So I'm asking either the Commissioner or Jeffrey Reid, do you have that number?
But to be honest, it was a mixed, let's say, reactions or comments received in terms of support for Alternative 5 versus Alternative 6. It wasn't definitive.
It wasn't definitive. With that center lane, if you're having a situation where a bus stops or somebody's going extremely slow, it's quite likely you're going to have people going around that vehicle and into the center lane. So how would you respond to concern that people would have about the potential colliding of vehicles in that center lane?
Right. Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Kovac, there is potential with 4 travel lanes. What we heard a lot from the residents over the course of the study is they feel unsafe making left turns into their driveway from Bloor Street. There's a lot of potential of being rear-ended as they're waiting for an adequate gap within the traffic.
The same thing can happen here. We have a lot of things in Mississauga. 29,000 plus people moving into Peel region every year. With all the development that we're seeing, it's a lot of cars. It's a lot more cars we're going to be having. And so we can expect those cars to travel on arterial roads, which they should. So the city of Mississauga, like a human body, has arterial roads, it has major collector roads, it has minor collector roads, it has small residential streets. These are all very important. What happens if you have blockages? Let's go back to Alternative 5. It ticked all of the boxes.
Councillor Hornick.
And to your point on the survey that was conducted, 53% do approve of the project, but, you know, we have expert staff who've researched this.
Councillor Demerla.
Thank you. So I want to begin by saying I think road diets are a great idea, but I think it has to be done right. Done wrong, it actually becomes a war on cars, and that's not fair to anyone. So I'm a big believer that there is a huge role for road diets to make for walkable communities where it's safer to walk. I'm struggling with Bloor Street because there's no retail. So that's one of the reasons I'm struggling. The second reason I'm struggling is we need to have a coherent strategy. We cannot at once say we're going to add, 96,000 cars potentially and go on a road diet, because this is not a one-off. We have a big plan to do road diet. So I would say we need a better framework for deciding which roads get the road diet, because the thing with the road diet is road diet on X means more cars on Y, but maybe Y is more suited for a road diet, so then you put Y on a road diet, so then Z's now getting impacted, and next thing you know, we are bumper to bumper. So I think option 5 actually is a nice compromise, because we get the cycling, and for now we keep the cars, and down the road, if the city of Mississauga really has credible strategies to put more transit, or so I will be, I can't support 6, but I'm happy to support 5.
Thank you, Councillor Demerla. Councillor Fonseca.
With the focus first on belonging, then prosper, then move, then connect and green. Yes, move, connect, and green our city moving forward. And this is why I do support the staff report.
Okay, Councillor Kobach.
Seeing and listening to a lot of the comments that have been made around the table, taking my own into account as well, and I right now and forever will believe that Alternative 5 is the better option. Choking our roads with a dieting plan corner to corner is not going to be wise. I am going to put forward right now, Madam Chair, if I'm able to, a deferral back to Commissioner Jeff Wright to allow Councillor Fonseca and myself, any other member around the table as well, one last shot, one last look at both 5 and 6. And for a $27 million project, it would be a shame if we didn't have full buy-in from corner to corner. That would not look good. So I ask that we vote right now on a deferral.
And Councillor Tejo. Impossible.
Sorry, I said no, Madam Chair.
You said no, thank you. The deferral passes. To clarify my own position, I found option 5 more attractive. I don't like the idea of 2 lanes. And Chris, you owe me, because when it's my turn to chair, you're going to have to take it.